You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hey, man, this is Vampiro, and you are listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Well, hello there. It's been a while, guys, but I'm glad to be back, and we're back, as is Lucha Underground back in just 3 weeks, May 31st, Wednesday, May 31st. Lucha Underground Season 3, Take 2 hits the air on El Rey Network. So glad to have my favorite wrestling show back. Love my Impact Wrestling, don't get me wrong. I love my Lucha Underground. I get my kids to sit down and watch it with me. I got to tell you, though, I've been doing this show for 15 years. Gosh, I'm getting old. And I always feared that I'd someday be Chris Farley. Remember the time that you were in the Beatles? You remember? That was awesome. Yeah, I kind of felt like that a couple times during this Vampiro interview, and that's scary to me. I never wanted to come off that way. But Vampiro is an awesome dude. This interview is going to make headlines. This is going to be huge. I hope you guys love it. And, again, check out the return of Lucha Underground Season 3 on El Rey Network, May 31st. It's about time, man. We needed more Lucha.
This is Sting, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
Throw some metal, show a little skin, looking for some trouble if she can get in. Come with me, I know where to go, I know what you like, I know where you want it. No, Rasta, give it the gate, tell up the master. No, Rasta, she won't slow, give it the master.
If you want to conquer something, you must be ready for a war.
Just isn't it a safe? Lucha Underground is out of this world. I've never seen anything like this.
Lucha Underground Season 3. New episode Wednesday at 8 p.m. on El Rey Network.
What's up, everybody? This is Matt Stryker, and you are listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with me right now is a guy who I am honored to have on the line, the voice, one of the two voices anyway, of Lucha Underground, the legendary Vampiro. Vampiro, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. It's so great to have you on the line today. So we are literally about 3 weeks off from the return of Lucha Underground to the El Rey Network. New episodes starting back up. Season 3, Part 2, kicking off in 3 weeks. How excited are you guys to finally have those episodes be seen?
I think everybody's kind of waiting on it. You know what I mean? There's such a cool vibe around the show. I think after so much time, people are getting used to the fact that we are a TV show with wrestling, based on wrestling. You know that there is going to be a season split. I think in this industry it is extremely refreshing to have that because people don't get burned out. You know what I mean? Like if you look at all the other companies that are going strong, they're weekly programs, and it's kind of like you don't really mind it if you miss a week or two or even a month because it's just too much sometimes. So to have us coming back after this break and have everybody hungry to see it, it's a pretty good feeling. So we're all motivated.
Excellent, absolutely. And you mentioned the word burned out, and I got to tell you, I was so burned out on wrestling in general. Before my friends kept telling me, you got to watch Lucha Underground, you got to watch Lucha Underground, and I resisted at first because I didn't bite in. finally I tuned in. I saw the Ivelisse and Mil Mortez match, and it blew my mind. And I have been like telling everybody that I ever talked to about wrestling before, seriously, it reminds me why I love this stuff. You should watch it too. And I guess I wanted to ask, what do you guys think of that? What do you think of the loyal fan base that once they do indulge and see the show, that they are so gung-ho about telling people to watch it?
I really think it stems from a couple things. One of them is the way that we interact and relate, treat, coexist with the fans live. It's the right environment. It's the right size. It's extremely intimate, and that energy, you can't really get that in too many circumstances in wrestling anymore. So the fact that we have that, and we really play off of them, you know, me and Matt before the show even starts recording, you know, I'm up there hyping the crowd and I'm doing my thing. So for me, it was a great way to extend that Vampiro thing that had that connection with the fans. So once we get on air, people see that. They see that energy is for real. Like, we don't have a dude who's off camera telling you when to stand up and applause and who to cheer for. It's authentic, and I think authenticity sells. And the fact that Rey Network pretty much, you know, they're the rock star network, right? Horror movies, kung fu, pro wrestling, you know, tattoos.
You can wake up every morning and watch Knight Rider. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, man. I mean, what the fuck is that all about? You know what I'm saying? Just the fact that we got El Rey hyping us like that and backing us up, and then we get hyped with the crowd. The people at home, when they see that, they want to be a part of it. So I think that's the magic, dude.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you've been a part of other organizations that have started up since the end of WCW. You were part of the XWF, Wrestling Society X, MLW. All these companies did not succeed to this level. So I guess that speaks to it, just because it's so authentic that's why it's gone further than some of those other attempts.
Well, all those other companies blew balls.
Okay. See, I was actually going to ask you, was like Wrestling Society X, because when you watch those shows back, it almost feels like that was kind of the precursor to what we see with Lucha Underground.
I mean, it wasn't. The greatest thing about that was everybody involved there was too worried about making money. You know what I mean? Everybody wanted to treat it like a wrestling company. And I think Kevin Kleinrock's original vision was he was more hip, and it was a great thing, was to get rock and roll and punk rock involved, because we're fans of theirs and they're fans of ours. So that was his thing. But I think there was too many people who had their fingers in the pie there, and they were expecting something. And then, you know, MTV, they go through their shakeups every little bit. And if when the new management came in, you know, they were more, you know, Jersey Shore type thing, and they just didn't want to fit us in the rotation, and we kind of got caught up in that. But I think there was just too many people who knew nothing about it and were expecting to make big money right off the bat touring. Yeah. And it's like, how can you tour when you don't even put us on the air? So, I mean, that was the cool thing about that company, right, was the rock and roll. Looking back on it now, a lot of these stars of today got their start in that promotion. So that was a cool thing, too. But I just think that all those other companies that you mentioned, just because they're run by fans who have daddy's money or whatever it is, however they get it, and they just think they can dominate the wrestling business overnight, you can't. It takes a lot of work. You need a lot of backstory. You need power of a powerful network. El Rey, for example.
Exactly.
You need the right people in the creative department. You got to have the right team before you even put the buffet table out there, right? If your kitchen ain't happening, the food's going to be shitty. So I think that we're a complete package at Lucha Underground, my friend. No, man, you hung up, dude.
I don't know who. Somebody hung up on somebody. Sorry about that. All right, so let's get back to, if you're okay, I'll rejoin you. So What we were talking about was the companies you work for. Another company you work for very briefly was TNA, and now with the news line that we do, there's been reports that you being in the position that you are, that Lucha Underground stars might be open to a talent exchange with the new Impact Wrestling direction. What is your opinion of that?
No, that's not going to happen. Not Lucha Underground. That's a deal between AAA and Impact. Yeah.
Okay. So that breaks news here.
Yeah, there's going to be talent from Impact working with their, like, Impact will have matches on AAA shows, for example, and we will integrate some of our talent from AAA into TNA, and hopefully eventually way down the line maybe do some intercompany angles. But as of right now, we are going to be using some of their talent on our bigger shows and vice versa. So it's in the baby steps. We want to do it right. There's a great camaraderie. The energy is positive. So that's what's happening.
Excellent. Thank you for that little nugget there. I appreciate that. So on commentary, when you watch Matt Stryker on commentary, you could tell, who his influences were. Obviously, Paul Heyman obviously came into a little bit of play with you. But you're completely different. You're kind of your own animal. I'll be honest with you. Being a fan as long as I was, I had no idea how you would even be on commentary, and you've become a guy I find myself bawling at listening to every week because you throw something out there that just takes me by surprise. Is there anybody that influenced you in your style and the way that you call a match?
Yeah, I steal a lot of things from my friend Kevin Gill. Just his way of doing things when he does the ICP JCW stuff. Mm-hmm. I thought to myself when I got offered the position, I already knew in the back of my mind that I'm going to be wanting to do other things in Lucha Underground, and I've branched out. I've got a producer's credit now, and I help with the creative, and I'm one of the agents there. But on the mic, I listen to Matt Stryker, and it's kind of like when you're playing in a band. If you have a lead guitar player who can play, then you better become a very good rhythm guitar player so that the band makes sense.
Right.
And I think me giving Matt his freedom to be him, and I just jump in when I think it's necessary, I think that's what works. Like, he studies, he writes notes, he thinks, and I can't do that, man. I've never done that in my career as a wrestler. I just kind of go out there and get the feel of the crowd. And the way I speak on that TV show is pretty much how I am in real life. So I just kind of go and be me. I don't know if it works or if it doesn't. I mean, apparently it does. I don't know if the fans like it or not. The point is, I'm there doing my best, and I think people are digging it. I make people laugh, and you have fun, man.
Absolutely.
I think I'm all right.
Dude, you're awesome. And when we had Stryker on about 6 months ago, he said that it's like sitting in the den watching the best wrestling show you can possibly imagine, calling it with your best friend. So he absolutely loves calling it with you too. So you guys are, and that's the way it comes across too. It feels like you guys are commentating on what we're watching, and it's really just it pulls you in, and I appreciate that. So I wanted to throw that out there. Not only are you a great wrestler, and I'm not just kissing your ass, but you're actually really good. You're really good as an announcer, too.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I was a good wrestler, dude. I think I had charisma, and I knew how to move the people, but a good wrestler, I was never. A good storyteller, I think I learned how to do that near the end. But, man.
I was actually going to talk to you about that.
Just calling the matches like we see it, There's nothing planned on it. When we call them matches, it's what you see is what you get, man. Sometimes I'm not even paying attention. And Matt says, Vamp? And I'm like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about, man. Leave me alone. And that's the real thing, man.
Excellent. Well, sometimes when you are calling matches, you do call back to probably your most well-known American feud, which was with Sting in WCW. Man, that stuff was ahead of its time. You guys were doing pre-tapes and cemeteries and all that long before there was ever a final deletion and things like that. So how was that process being involved with one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling in The Stinger?
I thought you were going to ask him that.
I actually did. To be honest with you, I did about 14 years ago. But
I don't think he liked it very much. I don't think he liked me.
No.
I was beyond grateful to because there was a few times that he took the time to speak to me, give me advice. I kind of just watched him because American pro wrestling is a lot different than, Mexico or Japan. And I was very fortunate to have that experience to learn from somebody at his level. I think the matches were great. I don't think he was too excited about having a younger guy with face paint and a more updated version of that guy who was a lot more authentic than he was. He had no clue what the paint means, but he was a phenomenal professional, and he was just there, man, and it was just a great experience for me. I just don't think he liked it very much, and he said that, but to each his own. I'm very grateful that he took the time to even do that with me.
Absolutely. Just as I'm grateful that you're taking the time to do this with me. And I'm going to ask us a couple more questions, then we'll circle back to Lucha and let you get on with your day because I can tell you're out and about. You had an awesome match with Mike Awesome, ironically enough, at Halloween Havoc, and you took a bump that has become something of legend, and I was hoping maybe we could put to bed whatever it was. The super power bomb you took in that match, it just looked sick. And there was reports that you had broken your neck, that you had a concussion. What was the extent of the damage from that move, if any?
Well, what's the legend?
The legend was that you suffered a severe concussion, but then WCW officials were angry that you were playing bass guitar for the Insane Clown Posse a few weeks later. I mean, I'm being as honest as I can be with you. So I was hoping we can kind of kill that.
I don't think I was playing guitar for them then. I think it was before that.
I think so,
It was
too.
only about 4 or 5 shows, yeah. Yeah, I never heard that. Yeah, that's, I don't even think, that's not true. I did break my neck, and I did suffer probably the worst concussion. I've had a few, but that was the bad one. In my point of view, that ended my career. I mean, I was around after. I've done some things, and I've been in the ring, in and out of the ring every now and then. But that was it, man. I was so. I don't know what happened. I just remember the police found me on the freeway, parked on the side of the road. I didn't know where I was. I didn't remember my wife's name at the time when I was married. I lost use of my hands. I couldn't walk. Even to this day, I suffer anxiety, severe anxiety. I had major insomnia for about 20 years because of it. Panic attacks, all that kind of stuff. It was really bad, and it was bad because WCW put me in the ring right away, and it wasn't until like a month later when I got diagnosed. So after, filling me with pain pills and all the other things and swelling my brain even more and still taking chair shots to the head and all that kind of stuff with the broken neck and the concussion, I think that was the end of my career. I can't remember things. I still suffer from it. I don't remember what I did early this morning. I have to write things down. I've always got like an alarm on my phone to remind me of things. But that was it. I still can't move my neck. I'm in therapy to this day, fixing those injuries from that time. Wow. Yeah, it was bad, man. That was the end.
Wow.
That's when right at that time when I was still recovering, that's when WCW was purchased by the McMahon family, and I called to Bruce Pritchard, who was in creative. And I said, I'm injured and all this kind of stuff. And he says, I wouldn't worry about it because creative doesn't think they can do anything with your character and we're going to let you go. So that was the end. That's exactly what happened.
That completely sucks.
It does. It's a good thing that I don't have a creative bone in my body.
That's awful, man. Well, on a happier note, we'll circle back to Lucha in just a sec. You did a very, very cool pay-per-view, and unfortunately, they should have released it on a video. They didn't, but they did it as a pay-per-view. Another nail in the coffin. And I learned a heck of a lot about you that I didn't know before when WCW did this pay-per-view. It was very cool hearing that you were kind of there and on the streets and on the strip when some of my favorite bands like Guns N' Roses and LA Guns and all that were all cutting their teeth. What is it like for you to be back in Los Angeles doing something that's so gritty and grimy, kind of like that whole metal, punk rock kind of thing going on with Lucha Underground, to get back to L.A. and do that?
What pay-per-view was that?
You did a pay-per-view documentary called Another Nail in the Coffin, and they did a whole interview with you for an hour long. If you want it, I'll send it to you on DVD if you want it. I promise I will.
Who did that?
WCW.
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. I never heard of that. I thought you were joking.
I'm not kidding. If it makes you, they did 3 of them. They did one on yourself, Billy Kidman, and Disco Inferno. But yours was the one that I actually watched. If you're curious enough, I'll send it to you.
No, I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
But thank you for telling me. I had no idea, man. But it's certainly dope. You know what I mean? I'm proud of who I am, this punk rock kid. I'm living back in my hometown where I originally came from. I'm a single dad. I'm here with my daughter. She's going to high school. Mm-hmm. I got a martial arts studio. And I'm still that rock and roll guy. You know, I lost 106 pounds so far since last season in Lucha Underground. My hair's long again. I've always been a musician before I was a wrestler. And coming from the Sunset Strip, coming from Melrose Avenue, coming from that whole thing, you know, and then to be back and to be this old school punk rock and roll, life in the gutter kind of guy who came from that rock and roll scene, and to go back there and see some of the things that are still around and still be involved, but now be the one who helps guys achieve their goals and dreams. It's exciting. I think this is the greatest time in my career. It's the most fun I've ever had. I'm enjoying this 1,000,001 times more than I ever did when I was Vampiro. I hated being Vampiro. I absolutely love doing what I'm doing now. Awesome, man. And speaking of what you're doing now, you talked about being, you know, not just the announcer, but doing so many other things. I was at the Phoenix in Vivo event that you guys did in October, and it was fantastic to be there. I was surprised, though, that with all the guys that were there, you weren't kind of on the front lines of meeting all the people. I know you were out with the microphone and so forth, but you didn't do like the autograph signings. Is it cool for you to step aside and kind of let the spotlight shine on some of the other guys? Hell yeah, man. I hate that shit. I don't want to do that. God damn, I'm anti-social, brother. I don't like that stuff. So yeah, man. That's the truth. You know, I'm a little bit anti-social and I'm shy, and I still got these little phobias and quirks from all. I'm telling you, man, I go into this panic mode because of all these head injuries, right? Right. I much prefer to walk out in the parking lot and just hang out with you. Don't stand in line to see me. You don't have to do that, man. I'm a dude. I'm just like you. I'm a punk rock kid, and it's all about being cool with your homies, man. And I get the whole fan thing, and I get the whole VIP deal. You know what? It's Lucha Underground talent. It's the Rey Network. It's their moment. I'm part of the machine. Believe me when I tell you, I'm more involved in it than you can even imagine. I'm the guy who makes a lot of shit happen, dude. And I don't need to get patted on the back. You know what I mean? I know who I am, and I know what I do, and I know what I did. If the new talent, it's their time, man. Go and enjoy that. I have no problem doing that, dude, stepping back. If they ask me to go out there and do it, of course I'll do it. But I like to do it on my own, man. Just walk out into the parking lot and see the people standing in line and hang out. That's more my thing. Cool.
Cool, man. Well, you did have a match in Lucha Underground, a couple of them, but you had a brutal one with Pentagon Dark. What can you tell me, if anything, both about that match, because that was brutal as can be, and also what can you tell me about if we're going to see Pentagon Dark in Lucha in Season 4?
Well, let's just first get a Season 4, right?
That's a good point. I thought you guys already had clearance, or is that another internet rumor that's not true?
I'm going to get in a lot of trouble, dude.
Okay, we'll leave it at that then.
Yeah, man. Everybody can read the writing on the wall. Don't make me say it.
All right.
You know what I mean? There's too much going on for it not to happen. When it happens, hopefully it does happen, and if it does happen, it's going to rock, right? We all know that.
Absolutely.
What was it like working with Pentagon in that match? It was easy, dude. I mean, it's kind of like, that's what I do best, right? That brawling style and the violence and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I would much rather do that than try to wrestle a dude. I'm a real big believer in horror movies, how they tell a story. And just my mission in that match was to make this kid famous.
And you did that.
And it's not because he was wrestling me. It was the story that we told.
The swerve
that
at the
was
end.
Give him that push, right?
Yeah.
So I think the fans appreciated it. Everybody says it was kind of brutal and gory and all that. I watched it. It wasn't that big a deal. But the story and the way it was laid out, if you were there live, you would have got blown away. What you saw on TV was only half the match. I think that I've got to that point in my career where I can do that with pretty much anybody. And it goes back to being authentic, right? So it was just a lot of fun because it elevated him, and I was very proud to say that out of all the things I've done, and I do help a lot of people, I really, really helped somebody. And now look at him. So it's great, right?
I agree, man. That was an awesome thing, and having you back in the ring to do that match, it was special just because you were in the ring. But the swerve at the end, I mean, that was indicative of everything that Lucha Underground is. It swerved everybody. Nobody saw it coming, and it was just boom. And like I said, you know, I've had Brian Cage on. I've had a lot of other people on who were from Lucha, and they say the same thing. It reminds them what they wanted to be when they were growing up, just this awesome thing. And that's what it does for me, too. I'm so burnt out on wrestling so much of the time, but your show, Lucha Underground, is the one thing that I look forward to watching. It's the one show I can get my kids to sit down and watch with me, and because everything else, they get up and walk around. They're bored by it. But this one, they'll sit down and watch. So, man, I appreciate that you guys are out there doing what you do.
Thank you very much. I mean, but you got to understand, though, and this is what the fans need to grasp. The product is awesome. The athleticism, storytelling, the whole team is great. But if it wasn't on the Rey Network, and we are on Netflix,
right?
We are
seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix.
Wrestling program on digital format. We're the first ones, but Netflix is not Rey. If Rey wasn't in the picture, this wouldn't have the flavor that it does. You know what I mean? Rey has that image, has that push, has that oomph, has that rebellion. If it wasn't for that, the flavor would be much different because it would be toned down, it would be watered down, it would be censored, there would be restrictions. Rey is like, fuck it, just don't kill anybody and do your thing. So, I mean, they're a big, big part of the equation. You know what I'm saying? It's not just the wrestling talent, the product. Because wrestling is wrestling, dude. There's only so much shit that you can do in the ring. And it's really hard at this day and age, at this stage in the game, to tell a new story and to swerve the people. You don't know how bad we were biting our lips and biting our tongue. Pentagon didn't even know the swerve until that night. He had no fucking clue. Nobody knew who the hell was going to go down, you know what I'm saying? But we kept that under wraps, and it was like, oh, my God, we got them. So being that Rey lets us do that crazy shit, that's why we are who we are, where we're at, you know what I'm saying?
I'm glad to hear you say that. There's a lot of wrestling companies that think just getting on some internet app is going to, launch their product. But I've been arguing since you guys got on Netflix, you need El Rey. You need national television, and especially with a network that actually suits your product, which is definitely what El Rey is.
All those jerk-offs try to copy me and Matt. I don't want to say any names, but they're out there trying to do what me and Matt do because they think you can just go out there and cuss and fight and argue, and that's going to get it over. No, it's not. That's just an example, right? and El Rey Network, I look at it like this. You remember, I don't know if you're a music fan, but do you know anything about Jane's Addiction?
I do. Dude, I grew up listening to everything from Los Angeles. Absolutely. I know Jane's Addiction.
Okay, so Jane's Addiction, when they first started, they would play house parties.
Mm-hmm.
And they would advertise the shit out of it, but you couldn't get in. They wouldn't let you in. Then when they went on tour, they wouldn't let the press in. They created this monster that if you weren't on the inside from the beginning, you weren't getting in. That's what El Rey is doing with Lucha Underground. Everybody knows about us, but you got to really, really dig deep and put your time in to find us. And everybody in the industry says, no, we need more eyeballs. Yeah, I get that. But if it wasn't for that underground flavor that you had to put your time in to even get it, it wouldn't be the same. If you can just turn on your TV and see it, it's not the same as planning your day and, oh, my God, I got to find this motherfucker. My cable company doesn't have it. I got to bootleg it off the internet. I got to get one of those genie boxes and try to download it. I mean, that magic is just like back in the day when you would go and search the sneaker stores for those high tops, or you would go to the record store and get that one record that had the poster in it. I mean, that's what we're doing. You want to talk about old school and punk rock style, that's it.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm going to let you get on with your day, but before I let you go, can I just ask for one little favor from you?
No.
Can I ask anyway?
Sure.
Do you mind just saying this is Vampiro and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio?
This is Vampiro and you are listening to Interactive Live
That's
Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio, if that's okay.
Fuck. Hey, man, this is Vampiro, and you are listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Don't change your dial.
All right, man. I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for taking
Is that what it is, Interactive Wrestling?
You nailed it. Yeah, absolutely right.
Fuck, of course I nailed it. I ain't Matt Stryker. I don't got to write notes.
Hey, this is Mike Awesome, and you better listen to the interactive interview, or I'll come out of your computer and body slam your ass.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. Hey, Patrick, are you there?
I am here. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good. It's been a while. We just had on Lucha Underground announcer and talent relations head and the whole 9 yards, Vampiro, and you are a guy who's been on Lucha Underground programming.
Yeah, sort of. I was on El Rey Network promoting them.
True. It's true, but that counts. Did that make Netflix, by the way? Do we know if that made Netflix or not really?
What, Lucha Underground?
The way the Turkey Marathon, like, why does it matter stuff.
Oh, did that make it to Netflix? No, I don't think so.
Because if it did, you'd probably be more stoked at the idea that you are on Netflix.
I mean, I was just happy to be a part of it. If it showed up on Netflix, that'd be really cool. I have a weird way, and a friend of mine was talking to me about it. It's like, you just stumble onto greatness. Because I'm also, I don't know if I told you this, do you know who the Angry Video Game Nerd is?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah, he made a movie. I'm in his movie.
Why?
I don't know. He asked for fan submissions to make some clips that will go into the movie, and he selected mine for whatever reason.
What were you angry about?
I wasn't angry about anything. I was just a fan of the dude's work, so I just made a video, and he put it in the movie.
Oh, cool. So it's not like, you know what really grinds my gears?
No.
Contra only having 3 lives. Who's beating this game in 3 lives? You need the cheat code. There's nothing like that going on here. It's you.
Oh, no, that's what he does, and I'm just talking about how great he is.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
have an
Well,
IMDb page.
you have an IMDb page?
I do.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, just as just that one credit to my name.
That's cool. That's cool. Very congratulations. You should put the Lucha.
So again,
Underground
I
thing on
stumble
there, too.
onto greatness.
Absolutely. And speaking of stumbling, we had Vampiro on just now, and man, what a touching, cool interview it was with a guy I've been begging to have on. You can ask the heads over at Lucha Underground when they gave us clearance to do a couple interviews. Vampiro was on the short list, and it's because I remember shit the guy did that he doesn't remember. And for those
you
who
were
are
telling me
listening,
about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's the deal. For those who don't remember this, there was a pay-per-view, and I swear to God it exists. I'll prove it somehow. There was a pay-per-view that existed in 2000. WCW had done the Superstar series of videos, like on DDP and Goldberg and Macho Man and Hollywood Hogan and Ric Flair. And I guess distribution wasn't really going great in 2000 because instead they were just airing them as like 1-hour pay-per-views. And they did one on Vampiro called Another Nail in the Coffin. And it was pretty cool because Vampiro was actually in Los Angeles for the opening of Ready to Rumble. And while there, they basically followed a camera and they had him kind of sitting on the street corner of, the Hollywood Strip, where basically everything that I love musically stems from to some extent. And he said, look, if you're wondering where my character came from, I was a homeless kid from Canada living on the streets of Hollywood, California when Guns N' Roses and LA Guns were just breaking their teeth. They were cutting their teeth, and they were dressing up as vampires, and I kind of borrowed the look from there, and then it steamrolled. That is kind of like, it was a really cool thing, and it kind of gave me a new appreciation for Vampiro because it kind of makes sense that he comes from that LA punk metal rock thing, which of course I love. So anyway, that really connected me with him. So I mentioned it during the interview. I'm like, well, I saw your pay-per-view, Another Nail in the Coffin. And he's like, dude, what pay-per-view's that? I'm like, it's the one that they did on you, like a spotlight, like the Superstar video. They did one of those on me? So, again, I remember shit that the guys themselves don't remember, which proves I am the super nerd.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
I don't know if that counts for anything, but it counts something to me, I guess.
Yeah. But it's really cool that you got Vamp because, this really speaks to the major positives of Lucha Underground and what that product is able to do. They're able to take somebody like a Vampiro who's, best days are behind him and make him into a superstar again because he really turned out to be one of the best parts of the show.
Yeah, and I never would have thought that. When you told me first that Vampiro was on commentary, my first thought was, ooh, that could be painful. Because I just never pictured him as a guy pulling out Jerry Lawler jokes, you know what I mean? And to his credit, he doesn't. But it's like, I don't know. It just when you first said that to me before you convinced me to give it a shot, yeah, I just couldn't picture it. I just could not imagine what he would sound like on commentary. And he's proven to be one of my favorites to listen to because he says shit that makes me laugh. There's something to be said about saying shit that makes me laugh.
Well,
because I'm a pretty stubborn guy. I don't laugh at shit because I think, what is the political implications of what you've just said? I don't do I don't do that with Vampiro. There's no politics. He's just saying what the hell comes to his mind.
Yeah, well, again, it's Bobby Heenan. I mean, who's probably the funniest commentator of all time.
Probably.
Okay, he is.
He is. I mean, come on. For those who want to say Jerry Lawler is, and keep in mind, I love Jerry Lawler just fine. He's fine. The dude carries on like he's never seen a pair of tits before.
Yeah.
Seriously, he acts like he's a 12-year-old boy, and it's like, dude. In fact, Bobby Heenan
on that
once
part
said
of
to
him
me,
down, but that's part of the PG thing.
Bobby Heenan said this once to me, and in fact, I think it was on our second interview. What, hasn't he ever seen a woman before? I guess there's some truth to that. So they toned that part of him down, but you're right.
Very much
that is the PG thing. Sorry?
It was very much of its time where they wanted to, just put the sex all to the forefront. So they had to have a guy that was a horny, crazy person.
And you think that was much of a stretch?
No.
I've seen the stuff that he posted, the original sex leaks posted by Jerry Lawler on the Cat.
Those weren't leaks. He just legitimately posted those, right?
True, but after they broke up, he posted the picture of her performing fellatio on her new boyfriend that she had sent to him as like a shaming thing.
Oh dear, I don't remember that.
It's out there. You can find it. I don't know if I have it, but yep, there's pictures of the cat honking on the Bobo.
Interesting.
By the way, that's a euphemism for blowjob, and it's the worst Aerosmith album there is. So it's like they must have known this sucks, because why would they call it that?
It blows.
It blows. It literally blows. They could have written on it, produced by Dr. Fellatio. I mean, for God's sakes, it's a piece of garbage.
Oh, wow.
If you're wondering what I'm talking about, there's an album that Aerosmith did in 2003, and it's called Honkin' on the Bobo, and it's nothing but them doing jazz covers from like the 50s. And it's like,
oh dear,
why?
no.
Yeah, no thank you. No thank
Some
you.
people are able to do that. Aerosmith, I can't picture being able to do jazz.
Well, I mean, they had some jazzy kind of stuff. There was 7-inch record and stuff like that they did that was jazz oriented with saxophones and stuff. But when you're a rock band, you do rock music. Just come on now.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get artsy with this, because
I'm not to defend them necessarily, because if it sucked, it sucked. But I mean, I can understand wanting to be versatile and wanting to try new things. It's kind of like Lady Gaga. Like, she did a jazz album, and that was probably the best thing she ever did. But yeah,
but Lady Gaga's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
And for those who I don't remember the last time we talked, kudos to her for the Super Bowl performance, because that was really, really good, and I had every intention of thinking that it was going to suck.
I mean, I thought going into it, because I'm not going to say I'm a Lady Gaga fan necessarily, but I've seen her do things that are good, and I think she is a talented musician, which is not something I can say about, like, the Katy Perrys of the world. Like, she actually is legitimately a musical talent. So I thought, and she's got some theatricality to her, so, I thought, she might actually put on a good Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh, she doesn't write stuff that I want to listen to, but she still does good music. I can't. There's a lot of music out there. I'll throw it out there. The Black Eyed Peas. They were the Super Bowl halftime show. I think calling them musicians is a stretch. Calling them musicians at all is a stretch. If you produced your music entirely on a computer and playing no musical instrument, you're not a musician. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. You need an instrument involved somewhere for it to be music. But anyway, we might be going way off kilter here.
Show, right?
Yeah, I was going to say. Anyway, so we talked a little bit about sex leaks. So if you are a chronic masturbator, this year, 2017, has been the year for you. We've had...
No, if you're a chronic masturbator and a wrestling fan, this has been the year for you.
Well, to be honest with you, do you know any wrestling fans that are not chronic masturbators?
Well, I'd like to think myself. I'm not one, but, you know.
Wrestling fans don't go through a lot of tissues because they cry a lot. I'm just saying.
Well, you just buried an entire fan base. That's kind of amazing.
Of which I'm part. But I kid because I love. Of course, we're not all that like that. But anyway, Paige was hacked. WWE did it.
The one that
I'm convinced.
Started it. Speaking of somebody who works in cybersecurity, it's like, girls, you really need to protect your shit. Like, you need to encrypt the holy fuck out of your phones, for God's sake. Or delete what's on it. Either or. Because this is getting, like, you're getting humiliated when you really shouldn't be. This is easily
How do you
avoidable.
not learn? And if you're a girl backstage in WWE and you're not like, oh, Paige, that's horrible. Delete, delete, delete. Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetie. Delete, delete, delete. How do you not do that? I mean, how do you still have shit that you don't want to get out on their phone? You've just been proven that it's, susceptible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also wondering, because I'm trying to think, all right, what exactly is getting hacked here? Is it their phones? Are they uploading this shit to the cloud and it's the cloud server
I
getting
assume
hacked?
cloud.
Or is it... Okay, is it the people that they're sending it to? Are their phones getting hacked? I mean, what's the dilly-dally?
I don't know. And to
Again,
Victoria's
that's
credit,
cybersecurity.
I don't think she's commented on it yet. And if you had a great line, you got to give me the line for the Victoria story.
Oh, the Victoria story? Oh, it was a great comeback story.
Ha ha.
And I take absolutely no credit for that. I stole it from Chris Pratt. So thank you, Chris Pratt.
She looks good.
Nothing to be ashamed of, right?
Well, I didn't say that, but she looked good. I mean, let's be honest, okay? Let's be total pigs here, okay? Paige looked fine.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with how Paige looked, right? She looked good on it. I'll give her that. But, you kind of, when you saw it, thought to yourself, oh, God, why is she doing this stuff? Charlotte,
let's be honest, though.
awful.
Knowing Paige, does it strike you as shocking that she would be the type of girl that would do something like this? Probably not, no. But, and again, before we descend into just being complete awful pigs here, let me just say, I'm not, trying to shame these girls or anything. I'm just saying, you guys are targets, and this is the cybersecurity guy in me. You guys are targets. You should take if you want to have that stuff on your phone for whatever reason, you should take better steps to protecting your data. And there are ways to do that. So just protect yourself. That's all I'm saying.
I agree entirely.
Yeah.
The last
Encryption
thing is
your
Charlotte
friend.
Flair. Encryption is your friend. Charlotte Flair. Another example of looking better with your clothes on.
I didn't see her.
Oh, no, you didn't miss nothing. Tom Brady would like her boobs because they look deflated.
Ooh, ouch. Well, here's the thing about Charlotte Flair, and again, not trying to be mean here. The first time I saw her, it was her match with Natalya on NXT, and that was literally the first time I ever saw her. And I took one look at her, and I was like, "Oh, that poor girl. She took after her dad." And I went, "Oh,
she's got her dad's beak, right?"
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, she looks like her dad," and not in a good way at all. She kind of looks like Flair. She looks like Rick, but with a woman's body. I was like, "Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry."
Yeah. She used to be married to Bram.
She used to what?
She used to be married to Impact Wrestling's Bram.
Oh, did he beat her?
No, but he's just got suspended.
For beating a woman?
No, this time for getting shit-faced drunk in Japan and falling asleep on ice cream bars.
Jesus Christ. That guy, I don't know, he strikes me as kind of a mess.
There's some CM Punk joke to make there about falling asleep on ice cream bars, but I'll leave it at that. No, yeah, that guy's a mess. And he's not that good. I mean, he's one of the guys that I'm happy enough to say he's not that good.
No, he's one of the carryovers from like that Dead era, from like the Destination America days and first year on Pop. He's one of those guys like, really? They kept him? They couldn't hold on to the Hardys. They couldn't hold on to Maria and Mike Bennett, but that guy, you got to keep Bram.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that were good from that time period, that forgotten era, because nobody either got the channel or didn't want to watch it because it kind of at times felt like a funeral. That were good. You know, Gunner is another guy that I really liked, and it sounds like he's got a WWE deal coming up.
Interesting. See, I was actually never a fan of his.
I liked him. I thought he was a good worker. He was a good worker who was going to give you a good match every time. Kind of reminded me of like whatever happened to this guy. Whatever happened to geez, I can't remember his name. Remember the guy who like came out and wrestled like Chris Benoit, Gunner Scott?
I think that's his name. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking
Brent
about.
Albright. Brent Albright.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him? I mean, he was a good worker, a solid worker, and you really couldn't fault his ring work, and then got released and pretty much nothing.
Don't know. I couldn't tell you where he is now.
Oh, man. Final thing, WrestleMania. What'd you think? Make it long and short here.
Honestly, better than last year's. Better than the last 2 years, at least. More good than bad. The show was still too goddamn long. That was definitely a problem. The main event was depressing to watch for multiple reasons, not the least of which being, okay, this is going to be Undertaker's last match, right? They promise. We're not going to see him ever again. Try to work a match. We're done now. It's over. I hope to God it is, because he looked absolutely terrible.
Yep. I wish I could say
Yeah,
something
so
other than yep, but pretty much yep.
Yeah. Now, that said, I thought Goldberg and Brock Lesnar stole the show.
I mean, it was a video game match, but it was fun.
I loved it. Especially coming that late in the show after I was kind of tired. It's like, oh my God, the show is like 7 hours long. Kill me, please. And then I just get this shot of adrenaline, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm back alive again.
There were shows back in the early 2000s, indie shows, USA Pro Wrestling in New York City. They'd start the show around noon, finish the show around 4 a.m. Literally for the main event, you'd have a blowout baseball game size crowd at the end of the game, at the end of the show. Like 12 people in the crowd who were probably hanging around because their legs fell asleep and they couldn't get up. It's kind of what WrestleMania has started to feel like to me, because they're just so damn long. I don't care.
Yeah. And I bet those indie shows you're talking about, I bet they had intermission.
I liked the intermission. Remember like when they had intermission and it was like they put the SummerSlam logo up with a counting down clock, and that was your piss break?
Oh, yeah. I don't understand why they don't do that. Like, guys, come on. Let us go.
Well,
I mean, I think the closest thing we have to a piss break or having like an intermission are like the musical acts, but you want to pay that much money to have people perform just so they can go piss? I mean, again, like you said, might as well just put the WrestleMania logo up on the screen and send us to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. I remember vividly they did it with, I think the last time, in fact, I remember seeing it was like SummerSlam 1990. They put that up for like 5 minutes. And it was cool because I was a kid at the time. I was like 9 or about to turn 9. And that was the end of it. I mean, we got a break. We got our snacks. We did what we wanted to do. And we were ready for the second half, which was more of the stuff that we actually wanted to see in the first place. So it was a good break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they just, I don't know, they just don't know how to, like, pace out or put together, like, time-wise, a WrestleMania anymore. They just kind of, I don't know. It's just
Vince McMahon
really
is a
weird. But this
genius.
year-
Vince McMahon is a genius. Triple H has no business being the next Vince McMahon.
From a business standpoint, probably not. Where I do respect Triple H is in terms of like his knowledge of how to construct good wrestling angles. And the proof of that is in NXT, where it's basically just 70s wrestling, but it's logical, makes sense. And when they get to the big shows like the takeovers, those matches actually mean something because they took the time to set them up. You typically don't get
Is that
on the
Triple
main
H?
roster.
Is that Triple H, or did you just borrow that from Dusty?
I mean, Triple H was he's the one that approves it and runs it. So, and Dusty, I mean, I hate to say it, Dusty's been gone for what, 2 years, a year and a half,
Almost 2 years.
and,
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm sorry Dusty's gone, but I mean NXT's still going, so.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's still going.
And that's one of the reasons WWE is so boring now, is because there's just so much goddamn content with a 3-hour Raw, 2-hour SmackDown, all the shows on the network.
We've
pay-per-view
been
once
through
a
this
month,
before
sometimes more
when we
than one a
talked about.
month.
We've been through this before where we talked about WCW. It's like at one time you had Saturday night was 2 hours. You had main event was an hour. Then you had Nitro was 3 hours, and you had Thunder, which is 2 hours. And it's the same mistakes being made, and nobody else sees it, but us.
I think a lot of people see it. It's just that the difference now is that there's no one to oppose them, so they just kind of get away with it. And they're now having all that content. They're kind of got this stranglehold on the business where they kind of have their fan base watching all of their content to the point where it's like they don't have time to watch like Lucha Underground or New Japan or TNA or Ring of Honor or any of the other shows out there.
Speaking of which, Ring of Honor has an upcoming show that I'm interested in. The War of the Worlds pay-per-view coming up in just a couple days.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with them since their WrestleMania weekend show, which was really good, by the way. Strong main event, and I really like the Cody Jay Lethal match too. But yeah,
if you like that, then you're going to like their main event for Friday night, because it's going to be Jay Lethal versus Cody Rhodes versus Christopher Daniels in a 3-way for the world title.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And there's a swerve coming somewhere here, because they got Jay Lethal playing this all-American good guy. Like, why'd you put him in the match, Chris? Why'd you put him in the match? It could have been us. We could have stole the show with us just one-on-one. It's just like, just too good. You're not angry enough. So there's got to be some kind of swerve, like a Bullet Club kind of swerve coming here.
Mm-hmm.
I know Cody's already in the Bullet Club, but we'll see.
Hey, good for Cody. I'm watching his work in New Japan and stuff, and he's really becoming quite the attraction. And I think he's going to be a big player in the G1 Climax coming later this year. And it's, good for him. He deserves to be. He's working Ring of Honor, he's working TNA, he's working New Japan. He's kind of all over the place, and he's becoming like a worldwide attraction. It's like, yeah, and he deserves it. I mean, that's a guy that gave 145% into every little scrap that the WWE ever gave him, and they kept pulling the rug out from under him. And it's like, well, now he gets to be a star elsewhere. And
why
like
is
I said,
that?
good for him.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. Unless is it the Dusty thing? Is that what it is? They just like Vince has this thing against Dusty?
Because Vince McMahon is a genius, and Triple H is a con man.
Okay. But at this point, okay, Triple H is a con man. I mean, if you see an obvious star right there in Cody, why not just run with it? I mean, you're really hurting
Cody's
yourself.
got his flaws. He has a bit of a generic. Let's be honest. I love Cody. I think he's a great worker. He's got a little bit of a generic look. He's got incredibly big shoes to fill. His brother,
that's true, definitely. But
his brother is an incredibly big character, whether you like it or not. Obviously, it's run its course, but is an incredibly big character. And then comparatively, you have a Cody. and he's obviously well-educated, intelligent, good athlete guy. If they don't come up with something for him to do that's better than Stardust, then he's done better outside of WWE, and good for him. He proved that can exist.
To be honest, I thought Stardust, he did a really good job with it. The problem was that creative had no idea what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of had him go out there and face paint. It was like, all right, make magic happen. And I thought Cody did the best he possibly could with it, and I thought it was going to work for a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, I think they got something here. But it's like Bray Wyatt. They didn't know what to do with it. Like, Bray Wyatt is like, people talk about how Bray's like the best character WWE's come up with in years. I'm like, yeah, and they keep fucking him over because they don't know what to do with him.
Oh, well. Anyway, Lucha Underground comes back in 3 weeks. That's good to see. At this point, the film is, a year old. This stuff was literally filmed in April of 2016. But, my kids are really excited for it. I'm really excited for it. Impact is better than it was by a long stretch. I got to be honest with you.
Except for the announcers.
And I like Jeremy Borash, and I even like Josh Matthews, but God, you're belaboring the point. You're like a Triple H segment.
Mm-hmm. We know what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole from a few years ago, where you would get an entire show of nothing but them bickering, and I'm just like, guys, stop. Please stop.
Nobody cares. And... oh, man. What can I do? Oh, well. So, anyway, we talked about sex tapes and rock and roll and a whole lot of shit.
Eternal Stonehenge will be like Spinal Tap.
There you go. All right, dude. Well, this was... and by the way, I don't hate Triple H. I just think that there's a big drop-off in the intelligence level of how Vince McMahon does business and how Triple H does business. I think you could see that in everything. We comically talk about the segment where Triple H beat the crap out of Flair with a sledgehammer for 35 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
Are you going to tell me, though, in all honesty, that the Braun Strowman and geez, I drew a blank on his name.
Roman
Reigns. The Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman stuff. That was any less, oh my God, just end it? Because it was like 20 minutes.
That one, you're right, it did go too long, but that one was better because at least Roman wasn't like bleeding all over the place and like stumbling to his feet and then getting knocked down again. At least Roman was like dead the whole time, so it's like, all right.
He wasn't the chicken from Family Guy.
Yeah. No. It's like, all right, so when Strowman kept coming back, it's like, all right, he just knocked him off the stretcher. Okay, he just tipped over the ambulance. It's like, it's not like what Flair was doing. It was like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And like, you should be dead by now. Why aren't you dead?
Oh, man. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed our show. I didn't mean to be so goddamn negative, but that's what happens sometimes.
Yep.
All right, dude. Hey, I'm going to say this in the intro, and I'm going to tell you this. The one thing I always fear is coming off like Chris Farley.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the Saturday Night Live segments when he'd have on like Paul McCartney? Hey, remember when you were with the Beatles? That was awesome.
Remember? Remember when there was that story about like if you played like a song in reverse, it would say like Paul is dead? Yeah, I remember that. That was like a hoax, right?
No, I wasn't really dead.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't really dead. I wasn't really dead.
So anyway, that's what I always feared like. So it's like, remember the time they did a pay-per-view on you? It's like, oh, shit, it's coming to happen.